I really wanted to give it some time before we really focused on the market because I've been waiting patiently for a day like today. And that's right. When I say that, we have enough price data to go off of in front of us to tell us what is going to happen next in the market. Now, currently speaking on the daily, it is a sea of green out there. Now, this is because of what we just got confirmed on the chart. Now, the big thing that I want you guys to understand is that going forward in this cycle, millionaires will be made. And no, I don't think that you need to have a massive amount of money invested. When we think about the phase of the market that we are in currently, we are in phase 2, headed into phase 3 and phase 4. That 3 and 4 phase, right, is where altcoins go absolutely insane. It's not unheard of to hit a 10x, a 20x, a 30x, or even more during those times. Now, yes, it definitely does come with risk, and yes, you also have to be invested into assets that have a very small market cap, but regardless of that, I still think a large amount of these altcoins are going to hit some pretty significant highs. Now, before we really talk more about altcoins, I do really want to focus on a few things here. Number one, Ethereum is up 5% today. Bitcoin's only up about 1%, which is why I keep saying, yes, we are in phase 2, the Ethereum cycle. When we think about Ethereum, 3,800 up 5% in the last day. Bitcoin up only 1%, still at around roughly 116K. We're starting to make some pretty big strides on the chart. Look at the monthly view here, 47.9% on Ethereum compared to 7.3% on Bitcoin. Look at the yearly though, 108% on Bitcoin compared to 55.5% on Ethereum. This is telling us that Ethereum still has a long way to go here. Of course, in terms of altcoins though, XRP over $3 again. SUI up over $3.70 plus cents. XLM up over 41 cents. We also have HBAR up over 25 cents as well. So again, some very nice gains across the board. Nice little jump. We are still red on the weekly and we are still red on the hourly. But for the most part, this is a very good start to what we want to see in the market. Now, in terms of the actual market itself, fear and greed back to about 54. Altcoin season, really nothing special there, about 36 out of 100. The market cap for crypto, 3.82 trillion. Overall, this is a very good bounce. The question here is this going to stick around? And I actually do believe that it is. In fact, when we think about Bitcoin right now, the entire market is bouncing back because of how Bitcoin is looking on the chart. What have I been saying for, weeks and even months technically? Every single time that we, look at a chart and analyze it, I always say to focus on one thing: structure. The structure is so important looking at these charts because they can give us an insight on what to expect going forward. I talked about this even going back to like March of 2024, right? We were waiting for a higher low off of the major wipeout. We were waiting for higher highs. And even more recently, if we're going back, to the sell-off from January all the way to the low in April, what we were really looking for is a higher low and a higher high. Currently speaking, this is what the 3-hour looks like on Bitcoin. We have a major high level that we needed to break over at about 115.7K. We also have our first major low down here, followed by our second low, which is also a higher high. We have a uptrend that we are grinding against, holding it as well. And then we got the big breakout. We also have the third low here, which is the higher low as well, going off the second low. And now we have a higher high. This has now confirmed bullish structure on the lower time frame. Obviously, yes, on the higher time frame, we still need to break over some significant highs. This is what the daily looks like. The main thing that we're looking at is a break over like 119.8K, and let's just round it up to 120K. ultimately we wanted to see a nice daily candle close over $120,000 plus. That would confirm, Bitcoin being extremely bullish, but this is a very, very good start. And ultimately, we are still pretty bullish here on Bitcoin. There's no major change at all from my original thought process. Even on the recent wick down to, 112K, was it, something that we were excited about? Obviously not, but it was something that we were planning for. It was something that we knew was going to happen prior to it actually happening. And now that we're starting to rebound, we have all of the price data in front of us telling us that we should be very bullish here, because it means that Bitcoin is going to continue to bounce and continue to make higher highs. Even if we chop a little bit more, maybe we chop to the downside, maybe we do something like this, I'm totally fine with it. I'm totally fine even if we retest this trend, before we have that big breakout. I'm not, crazy about us going immediately to 120K. The longer that we chop and range for, hey, the better for price action, because it means that we're building a floor, we're building liquidity, it's supporting the move to the upside. I hate when people say, oh, I can't wait for just one green candle to the upside. Typically, when we get something like that that's extremely volatile to the upside, we usually get the same going down, and it's pretty quick. So I like this slow grind to the top. It provides us with healthier price action. It provides us with healthier structure as well. In terms of Ethereum, same story, right? We can clearly see it on the 3-hour. We have our low down here. Technically, we have a nice trend that we were following. Big break to the upside. This is a higher low going off of all of these lows down here. We also have, a higher high. And then we also have the higher low here. We kind of built a floor, and then we chopped a little bit more to the upside, built a trend, and then boom, big break above these previous highs, creating a higher high. And now we're back to 3,800, almost like nothing happened at all. And on the daily, again, looking very, very good here. Main thing that we want to see here is just us taking out the high from July 28th, which that wick is about 39.40. Send it to 4K, get it out of the way, then send it to 5K. I'm very happy overall with the price action that we're seeing on Ethereum. This is extremely bullish price action. Outside of Ethereum, XRP, no major change at all, if I'm being honest here. This is what the 3-hour looks like. Again, very similar to Ethereum and Bitcoin. Major low, higher low, multiple candles here. Technically, even a higher low here as well. It's pretty shallow, nothing too crazy. Pretty much an uptrend, if we actually draw it correctly. Sorry. We have that big break to the upside. Now we're retesting resistance. We want to clear this high at about roughly $3.11 for us to really create a bullish structure on this chart, which will allow us to retest some of these other highs, like around $3.17 or even like around $3.33. Second that we actually break over $3.33, that's actually a macro high on the daily that would be very bullish for XRP. Might take a little bit of time though. I think the focus right now is mainly on Ethereum and what Ethereum can accomplish here in the short term. But overall, XRP looks pretty good here. In terms of SUI, no major change at all on SUI as well, because again, still very bullish, still a very similar state in terms of like the other charts where we have higher lows. And now we also have a higher high going off of this high wick from the 4th. So SUI looking very, very good here. Also flipped a major support zone here that we did lose recently. And this actually was resistance that we now can possibly flip into support. So watch for a $3.61 retest for that level to hold, because again, that would be a very good sign of strength for us to actually hold that as support. Outside of that, XLM, very similar chart to like even XRP. We are retesting this this resistance zone. This is going to act as just resistance in this short term, but overall, love the overall trend here. In an uptrend, higher lows. Again, all we want to see here is higher highs. These charts all look very good. Even HBAR, very similar state to XLM. Again, we are in a strong uptrend here. We could retest it. It's not like out of the question for us to retest this around like 24 cents or anything like that. We're just kind of chopping, hitting some resistance on these charts as to be expected, right? It's going to take a little bit of time for us to get past this, but once we do, we could target some of the other highs here on the chart. And this one is, up here around like 27 cents and then 30 cents. So watch these altcoins very close. In terms of stocks, this is what stocks look like currently. So, I mean, listen, if we really want to confirm that this path is still in play, because so far it has been dialed in perfectly. And I've talked about this, and I was talking about it even during the live streams. You guys can go back and watch them. No, I'm not just drawing these and saying, hey guys, look it, I was right. No, this is what we were calling for all during last week and the week prior. And this is so far working into our favor. Now, the big thing here that we want to watch is just like all of the other charts on the daily. We want to clear this 64.26 level. So we could actually just remove this upper level here on the chart. Okay, we want to clear this level officially for us to get that big push to 6,600, which might have a little bit of a sell-off, and then we get that big push to like 69.60. That would be a huge push, but this level we need to clear it first. So 64.26 is the first target on the S&P that we need to really kind of watch for us to break over. After that, we can look at some of the other key highs to be taken out on the S&P. But this thing is looking very good as well. Stocks, crypto, they're all extremely bullish at this point, especially leading into, the FOMC meeting with the Fed. I still think that we get some rate cut decisions. I think that the entire environment right now around crypto is extremely bullish. A lot of people are just not prepared for this next wave. And I really do think that it shows by just looking at the, ignorant comments on the YouTube videos and even on the X post. And I know that I don't want to spotlight any of them, but, I do see them. I read them quite a bit. A lot of people saying, oh, yeah, you said that it was going to be, a good time for the market, but we're selling off. And what's crazy about this? We were calling for the lows of 112K to be ran anyways, followed by a recovery. And that's exactly what's happening here. And I'm not saying that I'm 100% correct all the time or anything like that. I'm not perfect, right? I will make mistakes. But so far, we have been on point with this. So I'm definitely watching closely. And I'm still very, very excited about what's to come because I'm extremely confident in this market recovering in a huge way. I think that the altcoin market is destined for some new highs, and watch for Ethereum. I know that you guys hate me talking about Ethereum so much, but guess what? This is the driver. I've been talking about it even with altcoin season, right? Phase 2, we want Ethereum to go as high as possible. We want to be Ethereum cheerleaders because when it comes to Ethereum going much higher, it's creating liquidity for altcoins to also surge much higher. And right now, the main thing about Ethereum is that we have macro resistance that we are going up against. This is around the 38 to like 4,100 plus level. And we want to actually break over this because the second that we can clear this resistance zone, then we can actually target, these highs back here from 2021. And this is going to take a little bit of work to get over because, again, there's a lot of high resistance levels within this. It's a huge gap between 4,300 and like 4,900. So, again, this is why it's been taking so long. But I will say the more that we retest these levels from, December and November and back in March and even back in the summer of 2024, once we can clear these levels, the more that we retest this resistance, it gets weaker and weaker and weaker, allowing for us to have that strong breakout. So I'm definitely watching this closely. I don't think that we've had, something like this happen in the past on the chart. Like if we go back to 2020 to 2021, when we actually got close to these highs, right, this resistance zone, Ethereum didn't really have to fight all that much, right? You could see it. We tapped it a few times, we sold off a few times. It took us a little bit of time, but once we finally broke over it, we had a big squeeze to the upside, followed by a sell-off, right? Nice little shallow sell-off, nothing too crazy. But then the next wave was just absolutely massive, taking Ethereum from the low of like 1,300 all the way to like 43 plus 100. So when it comes to this next wave here, this is going to be a very violent breakout once we clear these highs. I wouldn't be surprised if, something like this happened before we had something like this, and then we had that continuation. Again, we just really kind of follow it one step at a time. But there will definitely be waves where we have a significant crash before we continue to the upside, or correction, I should say. It would be a better way to actually describe it as a correction, because we would have that sell off and then we would have that continuation, just like the summer of 2021 into the fall time of 2021 as well. So this is what I would be expecting. It would be very violent, you know, once we break over these highs. Like, that move is going to be very violent for Ethereum, and it should also look the same for altcoins as well. So altcoins will move extremely fast once Ethereum actually clears this resistance. So currently speaking, more important to focus on Ethereum and what Bitcoin are doing. The Bitcoin chart, like I said, is extremely bullish right now. I am very confident that Bitcoin is going to continue higher in the short term. You know, give it a couple days. I think that the weekend price action is definitely going to be interesting, but next week is also going to be a big focus, in my opinion. Just like I said, you know, the first like 2 weeks of August, it's just chop and us getting out of the water. And so far, we're starting to, you know, peek our head out of the water. You know, I think that next week we'll be starting to really kind of, you know, walk out of the water and really kind of climb higher and higher. So I'm definitely watching next week a little bit more than this week, but this is very good price action to begin with. And, you know, this is a huge signal as well that things are getting bullish again. So with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys definitely leave a like, subscribe, turn notifications on because of more free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord in the description below. And with that being said, guys, this has been Nick. Thanks for watching. Peace out, guys.